Welcome to episode 29 of Tangled Rights. Here we are after Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate.
Hanukkah,
Kwanzaa.
is there, I guess there
Whatever it is.
wouldn't be like does Islam have any kind of,
Ramadan is...
Yeah, but that's not...
Is that late? Is that
I don't
around
remember.
the same time?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Whatever holiday you celebrate or don't celebrate,
Celebrate it.
do or don't. Enjoy.
Whatever. Or Jehovah's Witness, don't.
Yeah, don't.
Don't at all.
But if you wanted to.
Episode 29. This is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, seek your local attorney. Please, we're licensed in Nevada, and Justin is additionally licensed in Kansas. If you have a case there, contact us, hit us up, and we will try, if we can, to help you. Justin, are you making some notes? Oh, that's Austin. So the first case I wanted to talk about is we had a recent trial, okay? And this trial kind of snuck up on us. Sometimes we're able to deal trials the day of trial. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we got to take things to trial.
Sometimes I forget about things.
No, don't say that. You knew
I didn't
about it.
forget about it. I knew about it, but
we
like...
had subpoenaed witnesses for it because we thought it was going, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just, hey, is this actually happening or not?
Yeah.
We don't know if the victim's going to show up. You always, the state, city, whatever, needs a victim.
And I didn't think that they would,
present a
considering
case.
the facts. I thought that for sure that fool wasn't going to show up, but he did.
So we talked just last episode about the difference between a bench trial and a jury trial.
Yeah.
For misdemeanor crimes. This has been established through a lot of constitutional law cases.
Jurisprudence.
A lot of jurisprudence. These cases get brought to the Supreme Court or federal circuit courts, and they kind of tell us things. Sometimes it's as we go, but over long standing, now we've had our Constitution for hundreds of years. There are certain things that get established. So in a misdemeanor case, a non-felony, so punishment less than a year, most of those cases, we'll talk about the wrinkles, you do not have a right to a jury trial.
Correct.
So you can be imprisoned in jail for 364 days.
Up to
364 days and not face a jury of your peers.
Yes.
Okay. So in this misdemeanor trial, we did not have the right to a jury.
No.
In certain misdemeanor trials, you do. And what's the difference there? Let's go into that.
Oh, so certain misdemeanors involve the deprivation of other rights. And the idea with the felonies is that it's under the they're over the 364 days. So therefore it's just some magical number that's more serious. And therefore you need to have your peers be the ones who are the arbiters, the deciders of fact.
Who can be, I guess.
Right.
You can waive that right, but
rather than the judge.
yeah.
The idea is you're kind of separating it. You're taking the power out of the state's hands and putting it into the people's hands. Let them decide. Versus whenever it's a little less serious. I mean, I would say 364 days in county is not great.
I think it's serious, but
I mean, could you imagine all the naps that you'd get to take?
that's a long time, and having that on your record.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, can you explain that gap in your resume?
Well, I was, focused on my physical health that time, really taking care of myself, drinking a lot of water, I did 400 push-ups a day.
Yeah. Probably
Every day.
Probably didn't eat too unhealthy either because they don't give you unhealthy food.
Nope.
in
And
jail or
where I
prison.
was at, ramen was $1 a package. Insane.
So it's about a deprivation of rights. And the other way you can be deprived of rights through just a misdemeanor is if you have some kind of domestic battery.
That's the
domestic
classic
violence.
one.
That's kind of the typical one I can think of. That's the one we see the most. I can't think of any.
Well,
off
and
the
we
top of
just
my
changed
head.
that recently. There was, I don't know if it was a Supreme Court case, the United States of America, or if it was a Nevada one, but I do know that like it used to, up until very recently, it was still only a bench trial. Yeah. But now because your Second Amendment rights are implicated, and if you get a DV, domestic violence charge, you're not allowed to have guns anymore. And so because of that, the seriousness now necessitates having a jury.
And that's still upheld. We talked about gun rights a little bit earlier for nonviolent crimes, but domestic violence is violent. It's a violent crime because you're hurting somebody else.
It's in the name.
It's in the name. Yeah, it's got to be. You had a recent non-domestic violence trial.
Standard
so
violence.
You didn't have the standard violence.
No domestic stuff added.
You didn't have the right. And regular battery, you don't lose your gun rights. It's domestic because you could possibly, you've shown that you can hurt somebody, that you actually care about, and you could do that again, or maybe that could advance to the next level, as sometimes criminal behavior does.
That's why specific charges are enhanceable in our state.
Yes, and that is
And DV is one of them.
in our state.
After your third, it's a felony.
There you go.
Same with DUI. But the other thing there is it seems that people with DVs, they tend to do it again, right? You're not talking about, oh, I was walking down the street and you stepped on my new Skechers or whatever, right? I don't know why I said Skechers.
White Skechers.
What am I wearing?
It's your
right
dream.
now?
That's your dream. You love your Skechers.
Are these New Balances? What are these? Under Armour shoes. My sweet gray Under Armours. No, got them at the outlet mall, real cheap. Whatever it is, I just get into a fight. That's not the same as I am in a relationship with somebody or I'm with my family and I'm going to punch my brother in the head at Thanksgiving because he supports whoever's playing the Cowboys. I don't have a brother, and I wouldn't punch him anyway. I'd be like, well, good for you. But those kinds of situations, if you're the type of person who's going to engage in that behavior in that situation, you're probably going to do it more than once. And so they want to try and stop that.
Okay, talk about your trial. We've led up to it so much. Now.
Oh man,
people just want to hear.
Our client was charged with battery.
Yes,
the underlying,
which is the unwanted touching of another.
Yeah,
right?
Battery is defined as the harmful or offensive contact of another, which isn't justified, right? And so that was our defense, was that it was self-defense, because he never denied that he hit the guy, right? He just said that the guy hit him first. And so the way that it goes is, I'll tell you the two versions of the story. The guy's version of the story, which didn't make a lot of sense, and I highlighted this to the judge, and she believed me. He says that it's not his custodial day, and I'll give you the parties first. Our client is dating the daughter of the father who owned the house. The other daughter of the father who owned the house, ex-boyfriend, had children together.
Oh,
yes,
messy. It's
dude,
always messy.
It was awful.
These are always messy.
So everybody's over at the dad's house. He's the victim, purported victim, says that he calls his daughter. The daughter's mom picks up the phone. Oh yeah, you can come get her, whatever. It's not your day, but you can have her. He then comes to the house and everybody there immediately just, get out of here. We don't want you here. You're a piece of shit, whatever. The mom walks outside and says, I'm calling the cops on you. Which that was the part that didn't make any sense to me. Why would she say, yeah, come get her, and then as soon as you get there, I'm calling the cops on you for showing up over here? He says everybody starts chirping at him, and then all of a sudden, my client just out of nowhere just wallops him. Hits him 3 times when he's up, and then pummels him when he's on the ground. In the police report, he didn't say anything like that. He just says he got punched. The police report, and the prosecutor even said that it was one of the most dry and just unconvincing police reports on the planet because it was so short.
Doesn't talk about.
There was a total of like 75 words in this thing. It was ridiculous.
Doesn't talk about light glistening off anyone's chest or anything like
God.
that.
When we're done with this, you're going to explain that. What the hell?
We talked about that.
We did. The dude with the romance novel hobby
or
whatever.
It was simple. It was simple.
Oh yeah, it was
not,
AI that did it.
It was not. It was a simple version, not this other police report.
Not the AI version.
Gotcha.
And in his statement to the police, where he gets to write down what he says, like what happens, he's very brief as well. Our guy says that he shows up, and our guy said it, the dad said it, and our guy's girlfriend said it. They all said basically the same thing, but they were varied enough that it made sense that they all seemed real. The victim shows up, like parks in a weird way. He's going against the flow of traffic. He gets out, starts screaming at everybody. Everyone's like, whatever, you just leave, want to go inside. That everyone went to go turn inside, and he gets in my client's face after insulting his girlfriend in a pretty mean way. And he's like, what are you going to do? I just insulted your woman. And like hits him in the chest, like not like a full on punch, but with a fist, pops him in the chest. And my guy said, no, he just left, right, left. And that was it. Homie was on the ground. When the cops showed up, my guy admitted to hitting him, but he thought that the other guy was going to admit, and this is his statement. He wanted to be on the stand. He wanted to testify. He kind of had to, because it's a self-defense claim.
Yep.
He wanted to explain that, look, the reason I didn't tell the cops that he hit me first is because I thought he was going to be a man. I was just going to, and his literal words were he was going to let bygones be bygones. Because look, we got into a fight, we got into an argument. I hit you, you fell down. I don't want to add insult to injury because you hit me first, whatever. And the judge just didn't believe the version of events where the other guy just got beat out of nowhere, right? It just doesn't make any sense.
Nothing that precipitated it.
No, yeah, it was just real weird.
So,
but it was a very complicated, strange story.
Yeah, and this was an afternoon. Like this is within
Right, but bench
3
trials are
hours.
usually
Bench
much
trials-
faster.
bench
This
trials
one
are-
took forever.
This is a little
Yeah,
longer.
it was good, but
Usually,
we found not guilty.
they can be a few. I mean, this is in the course of one day.
Oh yeah, it was all wrapped up quick.
And there's limited witnesses.
One point that I want to make.
Go ahead.
The prosecution forgot to sequester the witnesses.
Did you ask for it?
No. Why would I do that?
Okay, good.
Sun Tzu, never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake.
Okay.
Sequestering witnesses means that you make them go outside so they can't hear each other's testimony. But the prosecutor correctly identified that usually the defense attorney does it, and she forgot. I wasn't going to do it. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Even still, they were all in the court, and they all heard what everybody else said, with the exception of the dad who didn't speak very good English, but he still, whatever he could understand, he heard. And they still didn't testify completely in line with each other. They were still a little off, which was frustrating to me, and I never brought it up, but this is weird.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So the question comes then, what is domestic versus not domestic? We have kind of a relationship here between victim and defendant.
So
but
the typical breakdown is if you're a family member, and that can be brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle. I don't think there's a distinction if you're like a fifth cousin once removed. I think you're still a family member. I don't know if it's enumerated. I don't have it memorized. Or if you have been or are in a dating relationship, which could be including married.
okay.
And so the general breakdown is if it's your literal family member or if it's a former or current girlfriend or significant other.
But these were, I guess, sisters' boyfriends.
Right. They
of
weren't
sorts.
they weren't like brothers-in-law. And I think brother-in-law might get you away from it as well. I don't think that qualifies.
Okay. By marriage only.
Yeah, by marriage. only.
Your marriage to somebody else except for your spouse.
Yeah, I don't think so. But again, I don't have it memorized for all you fact checkers out there. Feel free to tell me what an idiot I am. It's fine. I don't care.
So you have all of your other criminal, first or rights, Fifth Amendment right not to testify against yourself. All those other things are still in place. So it is kind of interesting that a trial by your peers is not that one's not important enough to remain in misdemeanor cases. But all the other ones, you have to be proved still beyond a reasonable doubt in misdemeanors.
Yes.
That's still the level of any crime where there's punishment possible of jail time. And then another one, right to an attorney.
Yep.
So when they're seeking jail time,
Which
you have a right to an attorney.
and I can talk about this now because it's over, but that's actually one of the things that informed my client because we got a really good offer right before the trial for a stay of adjudication. But my client, they asked me, well, if I don't take it, am I looking at jail today? So I go in and ask the prosecutor, hey, are you seeking jail time if he loses? And she said no. And so I was like, no. And he's like, oh, screw it, send it then. But that's not exactly how he said it. He's a lot more chill and relaxed than I am. So he was like, oh, well, then I want my day in court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not facing jail time, have your day in court, I guess.
Well, it's just a mismisdemeanor anyway. It's not really going to affect you.
and
that
if you're
much.
not doing jail, there's a fine, that the court
do
could
a
impose.
class or something. And that's what that was. And the judge was Wolfson over in Muni Court.
Yeah.
I had not
Pretty new judge.
Yeah, I had not appeared in front of her before. I thought her ruling made a lot of sense. She seemed down the middle, the way I would like my judges, to where they're not slanted one way or the other. She followed the law. And I think her literal words were when she was talking to the defendant, and I was texting you while this was happening because I was texting you while she was giving me the ruling. At first, I was like, "Oh crap! I think I just lost my first trial." And
Did
then
she kind of like laid into him a little bit?
yeah, and I was like, "Oh shit, we're gonna
So
lose."
sometimes the judges want to, teach you something, right?
But what
Don't
she
hit people.
Yeah, she's
And it should have been comparative to how he was hit, right?
well, and that was the thing. She's like, "Look, I can't say that this wasn't proportional, but what I can say." Or this was proportional, but what I can say is that the facts don't allow me beyond a reasonable doubt to convict you of this crime. And she said it's very messy and it's complicated and you're lucky, both of you, and you need to be better. I think her exact words were everybody needs to be better to each other.
Yeah.
Which is true.
It's
true. Absolutely. They should not have gotten into a fight. They shouldn't have yelled at each other. He shouldn't have called. Apparently the guy has a stutter, the victim. And so the girl that he insulted with something you'd say to a woman was supposedly insulting his stutter. And
Wow.
dude, it's one of those things. It's like a Jerry Springer episode where you've got family members who they're mad at each other for whatever. They share kids. It's like, dude, just be nice to each other.
And they want to use the criminal justice system to solve their problems.
Yeah. And it's no good because all it does is create more problems.
There's not even getting jail time. So what's that going to prove? Like, anyway.
I don't know. But it was crazy. Oh, the reason I didn't think that guy was going to show up, 2 weeks after the fact, he shows up to that same house, kicks their door in. He's got like 4 felonies: domestic violence by strangulation, burglary of a residence. Like he's out on bond right now.
Oh,
like he's got a very, very serious case going against him in justice court.
Could you bring that up or no? Because there's no.
I tried, and she let me get into some stuff, but she wouldn't let me get into
the facts of it. He's still got Fifth Amendment. He's
still got Fifth Amendment, but she wouldn't let me get into things that happened after the incident.
Okay.
I got to get into that, because I thought that it was their state of mind at the time that this guy came over was relevant, especially for a self-defense claim. Like, what do I know to be true? Do I know this guy is like, he's just a teddy bear all the time? Oh no, he's walking towards me, punch him in the face. Or is it, hey, I know this guy starts fights and I know he's quick to temper. I'm not going to give him the opportunity to punch me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know.
That's important to know. Yeah.
And so I got to get into it a little bit.
Prior relationship.
The prosecutor did correctly object, and the judge did correctly prevent me, but I got just enough of it out. And afterwards, I did, Your Honor, you might want to know. And I told her, and she was like, oh, okay.
Now that it's over. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got to talk a little bit, and I thought that was great. I got to kind of hear Wolfson's take on things, and
thoughts.
Yeah, you get a different perspective.
From somebody on the bench.
Well, not just that, but also she was a prosecutor for several years. So
well, she was doing civil too, mostly, I think.
Well, my understanding is it was 3 years criminal and then 4 years civil.
Gotcha.
But either way, for that office.
It's so weird now. There's judges that are younger than us. I went to law school with her, and she was the year after me. So it's just so weird that now I'm experienced enough out there that there are judges who are younger than me, been practicing less time than me. But that doesn't prevent some attorneys who have been practicing for decades to tell me that I'm wrong about everything. So,
I've been doing this for 30 years. I never heard nobody say that. Yeah. Well, if you looked in the Nevada revised statutes, you might find it there.
But hey,
could be a clue.
And that goes into prior relationships. If you know somebody that's pulled a gun on somebody else, it's going to cause you to treat them differently.
For sure.
So,
especially if they did it in a way that like it is not a situation where you'd expect that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. If someone pulls a knife on you and then you say, oh, this guy pulled a gun. Why? Oh, the guy pulled a knife on him. Okay. All right. I don't feel anything about that because I would do the same thing.
Proportional.
Versus you're mad at somebody when they're talking to you about something and you pull a gun on them. Yeah. That's not a good thing to do.
You could still be a licensed attorney even if you had done that in your past. Can you believe that? That's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
Here in the state of Nevada. Wow.
I do know, given what we're talking about, that guy, they did seek more punishment, but it wasn't granted.
Let's.
No, I meant the prior one because it's over now, right? The prior.
Gotcha.
The prior case that we're talking about.
Nope, you're good. Crazy times we're living in.
Let's
come
world.
back to Sarah Boone.
Again? Who cares about her?
I'm just gonna
Austin over here. He's literally raising the roof. Sarah Boone.
We use this stuff to just teach us things about criminal law because sometimes there's acronyms. There's acronyms that the judge says, or there's words that the judge says. Who, as a civil attorney for a lot of years coming into the criminal world, I'm like, what does this mean? Sometimes you tell me, I don't know what this means, and you've done criminal most of your career on a prosecutor. Here, Kansas, sometimes the language here is different than in Kansas.
Oh, for sure.
So, Sarah Boone had a PSI done.
Pre-sentence investigation report. I knew what that was.
Pre-sentence investigation. And it's the same language in Florida where she's being...
Well, you have
where
to have
she's convicted. Yeah. So,
you want to know what they are?
That's what we're going to get to. Sarah Boone had a PSI. Mm-hmm. Hers is crazy. The therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist, whoever it was, said... No, she's a narcissist. I can quickly tell because the way people talk, we can figure out how you think and your insecurities. So if you say, "Oh, I was applying for college," instead of saying, "I graduated high school." What's your highest level of education? Oh, I was applying for college. This is her specific example.
I say some college. When people ask me that, I say some college because it's true.
That's funny. I have, yeah.
Does some college mean like you didn't finish?
Yes, that's
But
what
it also
means.
means I did some college,
But
which I did do.
It could mean that
I
you
did
have a
do
professional license.
A lot of college.
Yeah. So
I'm a doctor. Thank you.
so she would say some college in meaning that I applied to college. Just the way she would answer everything was all just
it's like
focused
trying to
on
like
herself.
hype herself up
So,
or whatever.
and when I meet people and they're like that and they, blow
Dude, I
themselves
did meet a
up,
guy who
it's
was an
like,
attorney
oh gosh.
that said legitimately doctor whatever, and I wanted to vomit.
Maybe he has a doctorate separately.
No, he didn't. I know him. He didn't.
I ordered some clothes from like England recently because there's some cool dress shirts that people are like, try these out.
Do they come with stab wounds or?
No. And it like made you put a prefix, and you could put
You what, mate?
you could put Mr., Mrs., Miss, and doctor was an option. I was like, I'm putting doctor. So when I got
my
these shipped to me,
God.
they said doctor.
Okay.
I self joke all the time. I think that I'm too important. I don't know if I give that off. I hope I don't, because maybe I need to seriously introspect here and look at this. Dr. Shane Cox got his fancy shirts from England that I got on sale. I did get on sale like 3 for $99. Something like that. They're not that expensive.
Two quick
if you get
stories.
them on sale.
Two quick stories. One, my internet is called A Doctor Lives Here. All one word, because I always like to call it something stupid. And then this, like swirling a glass. When we were in undergrad, me and a buddy of mine for 4th of July were like, hey, we're here at our apartment complex. Let's have some beers, watch the fireworks. There was another student who we saw on campus and we knew who she was. Her name was Katie. She lived in the same complex. We were like, oh, she's still here. Let's invite her out, whatever. Because we're literally the only out of 36 apartments. There's 3 of us that are still there. Everybody's gone having fun. And so we go, oh, Katie, hey, we're going to drink some beers. You can come kick it with us if you want. And she's like, let me grab a cocktail. We're like, oh, okay, whatever. And so she comes out and we're drinking our Keystone or whatever. And we're like, oh, what's that? And she goes, it's Merlot. Like I wouldn't fucking know what Merlot was because she was swirling it. And so then from then on, anytime someone's acting like a pompous dickhead, you just... It's a White Claw. Vintage 2024. Delightful time. So yeah, that's you with your shirts.
I thought it was funny. I just thought it was
It
funny.
is funny, but it's also funny for me to say, fuck you.
All right, what's your other story?
That was it. Those are the 2. Doctor lives here and Katie's a bitch.
Oh, okay. The first one's quick.
She was a bitch, dude. She was so mean.
PSI.
Pre-sentence investigation
PSI,
report.
That's after conviction or taking a plea deal.
Correct. It's between initial arraignment in district court, which is when you say I'm guilty or you are found guilty, and when you are sentenced.
So you have a right to that?
In certain instances, with a felony, you have to have it.
Okay. Have to
At least
everywhere?
At least here. I can't speak to every state because I haven't been there.
Happens in Florida. I know
Happens
that.
in Kansas. Happens here in Nevada.
Okay. So
Nevada.
what is a pre-sentence investigation?
It's a report before you're sentenced where they investigate you.
About what?
About your history. So the way it starts, ours are usually a few pages. 7 is about the standard. The shortest one I've ever seen is 4. And that's because the person had no criminal history.
Okay.
Still got sent to prison.
Yeah.
And I'm salty about that one.
Yes.
So it'll start out with your name, social security number, date of birth, standard background stuff. Gets into education. There's a section on your upbringing, what your family life was like. There's a substance abuse. There's a mental health section. They just basically, it's where the person from parole and probation is going to interview you. And they probably have a set series of questions to try and elicit this information. Obviously, a lot of it is self-reporting. So it depends on whether the person's honest or not. But some of it is objective, like your criminal history. They run you through NCIS or whatever it is.
One of the big factors I see talking about criminal history is what age were you at your first crime too?
Correct.
Because is this
Whoops.
is this start when you're a kid and
Yeah.
you just can't get out of it?
Basically,
or-
is it a lifelong thing? And,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that there's some peer-reviewed whatever somewhere that says...
this is a factor to talk about whether
I
this
don't
person
know.
could be rehabilitated or not.
And I mean, I know I see it, but I don't know the reasoning behind it. I mean, I can speculate, but if you were to ask me what's the real purpose, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, so it starts there. And then the other big thing that they do is they get into your background criminally. So they look up, through the FBI database or whatever, and they'll pull everything if you've got anything.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some where the PSI is 12 pages long, and they've got, with that dude that we got probation. Remember, I think we talked about him once where he had a knife. It was an assault with a deadly weapon. And he'd previously had an assault with a deadly weapon and an attempted murder with a knife.
Oh, okay.
It was in Holthus's courtroom.
Sure.
Yeah. Got him probation for that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Anyway, but the point is they had arrest records going back to the 80s.
Yeah. So the point of the PSI is because at sentencing, kind of, you're already convicted guilty. You know, you found guilty one way or the other. So the judge gets to look at what we call mitigating factors, kind of why you're a good person or eligible for rehabilitation, or aggravating factors, why you're actually just a really bad person and your history, you know, you actually came from a good family, were given all the opportunity in the world, and for whatever reason, you chose the bad path. So a mitigating factor is, hey, your dad taught you crime, you know, that's all you know. So those are intended to be presented to the judge, and the judge can take it all in. They're not then limited by what was limited at trial. They get to take everything in. In cases where you take a plea deal, they can take evidence of maybe the other crimes that you didn't plead to. Let's say, you know, you plead to just one of 4 counts. They get to take into account all these other counts too. So that could determine how the judge, you know, holds you accountable for what you did. So that means that, you know, you could get a higher sentence from the judge. Usually we'll stipulate to sentences. Sometimes we have to argue about them, and that's the only way we can get an agreement. So these PSIs are super important. The specific one for Sarah Boone is
what's so weird about it?
It's just what I said, where they found that she's, you know,
the narcissist stuff. Yeah, whatever.
Narcissistic, just self-focused. And that's kind of what the public all saw, like, throughout her criminal process. And they feel vindicated in seeing that even more, that she just focuses on herself and that's it. Disregards her late boyfriend, George, who ended up dead. And even her son, her child, her ex-husband, it's all about her. So that's something that can be taken into account in your sentencing. She got a murder charge, so she's going to be put away for a long time anyway.
Forever.
But these are important parts of a case, is a PSI. And if we get into criminals that have had a lot of crimes before, they know more about PSIs and how to kind of answer questions than we do. I've never had to sit for one.
That's the crazy thing to me is I don't know how many times I've seen somebody who, like, especially when I first got back into it, they know the situation better than I do. And I'm like, bro,
they're
come
like,
on.
oh yeah, that prosecutor, you talking about James? Like, I don't know who the prosecutor James is, like, but okay, oh yeah, the judge is going to do this and this and this. And
it's like, dude,
oh, okay. Like,
maybe stop.
Sometimes they do know. Sometimes
just quit.
Sometimes they've been there. Stop breaking the law.
Stop breaking the law, asshole.
So
yeah, brilliant stuff.
That's what a PSI is. I mean, that's after you take a deal, so it's not like your attorney's helping you with it either. We don't help our clients with PSIs. Sometimes you have to get a mental health evaluation as part of the PSI. So sometimes for certain crimes,
yes,
sometimes it's psychosexual because there's sex-based crimes. You have to have a psychosexual investigation evaluation done to see your propensity to maybe commit that crime again. Because the judge wants to know,
are you going to do it more?
Are you going to do it again? That's the whole that's the whole system. We don't want this to happen again.
Stop
anywhere
breaking the law.
We want there to be punishment. So people say, yeah, I don't break the law because there's a possible punishment.
Asshole.
Yes. So please stop committing crimes.
I mean,
they're going to...
Some crimes I don't care about as much, but definitely the crimes that involve psychosexual evaluations, just don't.
Okay.
If you could just not, that'd be super sick.
Going to talk about 2 different people who are related here, not family related, but a woman by the name of Chloe Driver.
Richard Dreyfuss?
Chloe Driver.
Oh.
Another cult. We're talking about another cult. We talked about cult last episode. Talking about another cult. Chloe Driver is a sick individual. She was mentally ill, found mentally ill by a jury. She stabbed her baby to death in order to get attention from the cult leader.
What the fuck?
Yes, I know. So that the cult leader would love her and choose her.
They call that negative attention.
So this is people who are kind of nomads in small areas of kind of the Appalachian Mountains. This was specifically kind of in the northeast of Georgia. They had also traveled throughout western North Carolina. We'll talk about that too. kind of just a nomadic group who didn't really have a place and kind of traveled everywhere. Cult leader being Jason Spillers. We'll talk about him real soon because he's facing his own criminal charges, as you could maybe have guessed from this. So she was found guilty of this, but mentally ill. Okay. So guilty of the crimes, but mentally ill. We had somebody very recently who attacked Judge Holthus. He pled guilty, but insane. So this has to be Georgia's pretty similar thing to that. Justin, do you know, or what can you tell me about being guilty, but mentally ill, or guilty, but insane?
So guilty is pretty clear.
Sure.
It just means that you did it or that you did the crime. But the mentally ill or mental insanity section is just going to be a mitigating factor, right? So it either excuses the conduct or it sets it up in such a way that, yes, you're guilty. Yes, you're going to be sentenced, but your punishment's going to be less. And that's like 10,000 foot view. Look at this.
Okay. So this is a recommendation to the judge. And this is kind of goes into what we were just talking about. PSI, pre-sentence investigation.
Yes.
Jury finds that yes, and this is an option for Georgia. You know, I never heard of a jury being allowed to do that here, where they could find you mentally ill. Could be part of a plea deal, I know, but the jury specifically found that she was mentally ill for this crime.
Sure.
And what facts they have could be presented by an expert for the defense. Hey, I talked to her. She has her Fifth Amendment right not to testify in front of you, but she did talk to me. And I mean, a kind of person that thinks this is okay has to be a mentally ill person in my mind. Like, you can't do this and be mentally sound.
I'd say, yeah.
And joining this cult and not having kind of the stability in your life anyway just seems difficult for me to comprehend. You know,
Maybe a bit of a nut.
I like stability. I was a military kid. We moved around a lot. So stability, you know, is something I value in my life. I like having peace, quiet, you know, just something comfortable. You might feel that same way too.
Yeah, had a very strange upbringing, and so I prefer peace.
Okay, cult leader Jason Spillers, second part of this.
Did he also profit and bang?
Oh yeah, that was
Called it.
that was
Batting
his-
1,000
his whole-
at
his-
diagnosing cult
his whole
leaders.
thing. Let me introduce, a hat. I told you that they also moved
Let me guess.
into Western
The Tallahassee rattlesnakes.
North Carolina. Western North Carolina's biggest city is
Jonesboro.
Asheville.
Asheville rattlesnakes.
Asheville, where the largest privately owned home is, the
Water moccasins.
Biltmore home, Biltmore Estate. Huge home you can go see. Got
The Asheville.
ravished by the recent flood there.
Ravaged?
Yeah. It's flooded out like
It flooded
crazy.
out there?
Yeah. One of the recent storms, flooded Asheville, North Carolina, because it kind of sits in like
Oh, it's in a valley.
it's
oh,
like
yeah.
a
No, I
mountainous
remember.
valley, so the water just stuck there.
No, but also didn't a levee break?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, or a dike broke
and
or
it was
something
just
like that?
it was just crazy. This is actually, I don't know why it's a tier, but this is their Hispanic. So this is the Asheville Yacumamas. What is a Yacumama?
It looks like a rattlesnake.
It is a huge snake. My mother-in-law cannot hear the word even. Her fear
Snake,
is so,
snake, snake.
Her fear is so crazy. I'll have to warn her not to watch. Sorry. My wife also kind of struggles with it, but this is from Peru, from Quechua.
Peru.
The word yaku means water, and the
from
word
Peru.
mama means mother.
I'm from Peru.
No, Peru, the country in South America.
Not Peru, Kansas?
Not Peru, Kansas.
Dang it.
So it's known as the mother of water. It's an enormous serpent that supposedly, it's kind of not real, it's a legend, in the Amazon rainforest. Supposedly that's the face of the snake with the, but cool colors. All the Hispanic nights are always super cool. Asheville, North Carolina, I went out to the stadium a couple years ago, bought this there. I use my hats as memories of the places I've been and the people I've seen
Quetzalcoatl.
and the food that I've eaten, because I'm a big fan of food. That's
I wanted
why
to say something
this weight loss challenge is
funny,
difficult on
but
me.
also inappropriate.
So in Asheville, North Carolina, Mr. Spillers.
And the diarrhea and dysentery he's gotten.
What? Cult leader
From
Jason
eating third
Spillers
world
is
food. Give me a break.
Is in federal court in the Western District of North Carolina, federal court. He is facing 14 counts of interstate communications of threats and violence. Okay? That occurred in October 2023. He's currently being held for that in federal jail. I don't know. Asheville, Charlotte. It extends out to Charlotte. Also the biggest city in North Carolina, most beautiful, where I served my mission. So love North Carolina. What I want to talk about here is Mr. Spillers wants to represent himself. Wants to go pro se. So these cultists think that they know more than everyone else.
Listen, I can convince people to let me bang their wives and that I'm a son of God. Yeah. I can definitely convince these 12 dummies that I didn't murder nobody.
So most recent filing there is the public defender filed to withdraw because my client is requesting to represent themselves.
Good.
So might have standby counsel soon. Did we talk about standby counsel, what that means?
We did once, but I can go over it very briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Standby counsel is an attorney who's on deck and going to sit through the whole trial with you just to make sure that nothing screwy happens since you're representing yourself and it's a terrible plan. Because you're going to lose because you're not an attorney. And I don't care how convincing you are. I don't care if you could convince 25 people to let you bang their wives. You're not going to convince these 12 you didn't do it.
Okay. Well, you need somebody like that to convince you. My guess is we're going to see this again. He's going to pop up in the news because if you're a cult leader, you don't listen to other people. And he's not going to take a deal. He'll probably have standby counsel. He'll probably represent himself. The thing with federal trials, though, is there's no right to media in most federal courts. That's why you see the sketches. You see those sketches is because in federal court, there's no cameras in. So you get some sketch artists that can go and draw whatever they want, kind of paint the scene. It's all recorded. The audio eventually comes out, but you don't get the same thing as seeing these in state court. So these things like court TV, don't want to promote those because they don't get to make as much money off of them. But Jason Spillers is going to probably be found guilty, is my guess. Hey, that's my prediction. Please never go pro se. Never go pro per. Do you call it pro se or pro per?
Pro se.
Pro se. That's what I say too.
Pro per is for appeals. Pro se is for...
People kind of interchange those, though.
Yeah, well, those people are
So that's Latin. A lot of our language comes from Latin. That's kind of the traditional court system. So pro se means by yourself,
more of
on
this.
your own.
It's more of this.
Yeah. So there's
Lawyers going
a lot of language that we get that's borrowed,
stolen
from those. So like nolo contendere,
no contest,
a no contest.
Oh,
plea.
that's another one. You were talking about defendants who know the system. They get up there. Nolo contendere, Your Honor. And it's like, really, bro?
You're like,
how many times you done this?
You know the system, huh?
You've done this too many times.
But hey,
just stop.
Yeah. So he won't have an attorney soon. And that'll be something to watch.
He'll have a lot of things that he won't have.
Yeah.
Shipping on that was like too much. So it makes it more expensive than the other place I go.
Okay. Next minor thing I want to talk about is there's a Netflix special that came out recently, or came out in 2022, but people were talking about recently. Brittany Smith, which is she was being sexually assaulted by a man she allowed to sleep in her house, not thinking that he's anybody that, to be afraid of. Kind of like our last episode when we talked about that Milwaukee woman who, went on a date with a man and he turned out to be a lot more insane than she expected.
You never know, right?
So,
you never know what someone's going to do, and it could happen to any of us.
So her story is about how she eventually shot this man, killed him because he was in the throes of sexual assaults against her. There was a prior, and she accused him of, going down this route again, of going to happen again.
Like he did it before and he was going to do it again?
Yes.
Or it happened to her once before and she wasn't going to get assaulted again?
It had happened to her before, and she said that it was going to happen again, kind of a thing. So this Netflix special brings out something I thought was super interesting, in that women who present a self-defense argument for murder are like 2 times more likely to get convicted than men who present the same self-defense argument.
Why?
And
You'd think it'd be the other way around.
So the idea that's presented here is that the system's just not fair because you look at women as being less aggressive. So the conduct of shooting somebody is something more egregious. So maybe they can't equate that to being okay for a feminine character to do. Or it could go back to not believing women and sexual assault, victims.
Yeah.
So there's kind of, I mean, it's always in the minds of, so juries could be predisposed one way or the other. We don't know. There has to be more done on this.
They get you by saying, "Oh, it's only $150 a case." But
As criminal law practitioners, we want to be aware of kind of this data to know, hey, just so you know, if we're presenting some kind of self-defense claim, you as a woman, and it's not me, I'm not, don't shoot the messenger, but there's studies that show women who present a self-defense are more likely to be convicted. Juries just don't believe them. It's not me. What?
Don't shoot the messenger to this imaginary woman who shot somebody. Whoa. Hey. Sorry.
Don't shoot me.
I don't know.
You have a gun in jail. How'd you get that?
I just thought it was funny the way you said it. But the thing that I don't understand about that is...
Choose your wording carefully.
Yes, do that. It seems strange to me that that would be the case whenever it's...
Sorry.
All based on reasonableness, right?
Yeah.
Like reasonableness of force. But the woman typically you'd think would be, especially if she's shooting a man, would be more likely to need to shoot than you or I would.
We've seen this another way with the black swan murderer.
Physical
right?
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the black swan murderer is different. And is it there's studies that show if you're attractive, you do better at trial. There are concrete studies that show the more attractive you are in a criminal setting, in a civil setting, you're more likely to win, whatever it means to win in your case. So is it that she's not as attractive of a person? Because I can tell you she's not as attractive as like the black swan murderer girl. Didn't look the same in a trial setting. So is that a factor that comes into play? Should we tell our clients that too?
Hey, be prettier.
Well, I want to talk about you missaying things that get interpreted wrong because you were in court the other day and I was shadowing you with my friend Rob, the prosecutor. My friend Rob, he was there as the prosecutor.
Rob,
my friend Rob
from the DA's office.
From the DA's office.
Thank you.
Yeah, my buddy.
Your friend, your best good friend,
my buddy Rob, loyal listener. So he was
shout out, dude. You're cool.
He was there, and you were talking about a case, and you said something funny the judge did not like. Your Honor, I think that we should give enough rope to the defendant to either allow him to pull himself out or to hang himself.
Right.
And the judge said, "Are you like? I do not like that analogy." She did not. She did not like that analogy. Our listener question is: do immigrants, non-citizens of this country, who even could be here, illegally, do they have the same rights as citizens?
Nope.
Not in everything, but yes, in a lot of things.
In some things,
in
they
the
do.
things we talk about in
Constitutional stuff, yes.
Facing a criminal case, 99% it's the same.
Their due process is different, though.
What is different about their due process?
So it's basically, it's on a sliding scale. So, right, you go from citizen to illegal immigrant. Because in between that, there's, from illegal immigrant, you go to lawful permanent resident, like green card, or...
Well, even before there's people on visas, right?
Right, okay, so yeah, so it goes illegal immigrant, visa, lawful permanent resident, citizen. And so basically at each step, and I forget what it said, and I took immigration in 2017, so give me a break here. It says something that, like, I want to say when you're not a citizen, your rights are whatever Congress says they are. And so that means that, yes, the Constitution applies because they say it should, but that it doesn't have to, is my recollection. But the thing that I know for certain is that it is a sliding scale. The closer you get to citizenship, the more protection you have.
Sure.
And
we talk mostly about, we talk mostly, and we're going to take this in context of a criminal trial.
Yeah.
We talked last week about this Venezuelan man that that was convicted of murder on the campus, University of Georgia.
gal.
He gets the same right, Fifth Amendment right. You know, he had the right to trial by peers.
Yeah.
And it's not, we're not, it's
And they didn't
not
go to
people from
Venezuela to get people.
Peers means
peers people here.
Who's around you in the area you live. So,
or the area you commit the crime.
Yes. That you're in. Yes.
Because he didn't probably live there. He was just sort of vagrant.
Of sorts. Yes. So during your criminal trial, it looks the same. They don't get to mention your citizenship status or you coming into the country illegally isn't brought up to a jury because it has nothing to do with the crime.
And it would be unfairly prejudicial.
But it could come up in PSI, which we talked about.
Yeah, for sentencing
so pre-sentencing, for sentencing purposes, you can be deported based on basically any kind of crime that you're convicted of, felony-wise.
But they're not going to deport you. They're going to put you in prison for however long. And then if you survive to get done with your sentence, then you get deported.
So in many instances, in what we talk about, and we're talking mostly about criminal law because that's what seems to be prompted by our listener questions.
People
mostly.
like it. People like it.
People like it. I enjoy it. Or
it's definitely a more interesting version sometimes than civil stuff because civil stuff's so boring.
It can be, but waiting for orders from judges can take some time too. In civil and criminal,
but we wait.
Everything
gladly.
goes. Well,
we will gladly wait.
Criminal, everything goes a little bit faster. You have a right for everything to go a little faster too. But thank you again, listeners. Happy holidays. Celebrate with your families. Don't be committing crimes.
And if you do, call me and I'll help you. Because just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty.